Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Welcome to yet another episode of our new initiative, Daily Quiz. To make it more quiz-like, let's do one thing. The moment a question is displayed on the screen, type in your answer or guess the answer and then evaluate whether you were right or wrong. And don't be embarrassed if your option is incorrect. It's okay to be embarrassed today and not on the day of your prelims. So let's get started and look at question number 1. Which of the following statement or statements regarding Ramsar Convention is or are correct? Number 1, it's an intergovernmental treaty that provides the framework for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. Correct? The convention was adopted in 1971, true, and came into force in 1975, correct. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, provides administrative services to the Convention on Wetlands. This statement is also correct, so D, all of the above, is the right answer. What is the context? There is only one Ramsar site in Assam, and that is known as Deepor Beel. What the authorities have done, they have banned community fishing in Deepor Beel to prevent over-exploitation. How many Ramsar sites do we have in India? We have 42 Ramsar wetland sites in India. And the last one added to this list was Sokar Wetland Complex in Ladakh. This complex consists of two connected lakes. One is a freshwater lake and the other is a hypersaline lake. Can be important for your prelims examination. Now let's look at question number 2. Which of the following is or are correctly matched? On one hand, we have the convention. On the other hand, we have the concern. Stockholm Convention is concerned with persistent organic pollutants. Bonn Convention is a convention on migratory species. Montreal Protocol is concerned with substances that deplete the ozone layer, and Minamata Convention deals with mercury. So none of these are correctly matched. D is the right answer. Now let's look at question number 3. The Financial Action Task Force is the global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog. Correct? The Financial Action Task Force was established in July 1989 by a group of 7 summit, G7 summit. Correct. The FATF officially releases blacklist and grey list naming the promoters of money laundering and terror financing nations. No. These are known by different names. Unofficially, we call them blacklist and the grey list. The names are different. I'll tell you slightly later, but this statement is wrong. So which of the above statements are correct? A, only 1 and 2. Which are these G7 nations? Can be another important statement for your prelims exam. One is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. Russia was also part of G7. It was then known as G8, and Russia was part of this grouping till 2014. Russia was suspended in the year 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. So if Russia was part of this group, should we then call it G8? That the Financial Action Task Force was established in 1989 by G8 summit? No. Because Russia joined this group in the year 1998 and it was part of this group till the year 2014. That is why when FATF was established, Russia was not part of this group. Let's look at some more facts. High risk jurisdictions subject to a call for action. This is what is popularly referred to as blacklist. So the countries that are placed in blacklist, these are basically non-cooperative countries that do not cooperate in the effort of FATF to combat money laundering and terror financing. But this list, jurisdictions under increased monitoring, this grey list primarily includes countries which do cooperate, but they are still deficient in their cooperation. So that means they need to take more and more actions to prevent terror financing and money laundering. Let's look at another question. Question number 4. The current FATF blacklist includes only three countries: North Korea, South Sudan, and Iran. South Sudan is not under blacklist. There are only two countries, North Korea and Iran, who are under the current blacklist. The FATF can investigate the allegations of money laundering and terror financing against the member countries. No, FATF cannot investigate. It does not have the investigative powers. The FATF plenary chairmanship is with China till 2022. No, it is with Germany. Till July 2020, China was the chairperson of FATF plenary. Now Germany is the chairperson. So all these statements are incorrect. D, none of the above is the right answer. What is this FATF plenary? It's basically the top decision making body of FATF, and it meets thrice a year. What is the context? This is today's Indian Express. Pakistan arrests 2611 mastermind Zakir Rahman Lakhvi on terror financing charges. And this action is because of FATF. FATF has been instrumental in pushing Pakistan to take measures against terrorists roaming freely in Pakistan and using Pakistani soil to carry out attacks in India and elsewhere. Pakistan right now is under FATF grey list. If Pakistan is blacklisted, or for that matter, when a country is blacklisted, the imports, the exports, and the remittances, they are impacted. Similarly, international lending can be restricted. Rating agencies such as Moody's, S&P, Standard and Poor, Fitch, these rating agencies may downgrade ratings as well. So that is the impact when a country is placed in FATF blacklist. Let's look at question number 5. Which of the following is widely known as the world's Atoms for Peace and Development organization within the United Nations family? It is A, IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. What is the context? IAEA says Iran plans to enrich uranium to up to 20% purity, and which violates the 2015 Vienna Accord, or what is popularly known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. This is famously known as Iran Nuclear Deal, which was signed by P5 plus 1 countries. P5, the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, plus 1, the Germany. This Iran nuclear deal basically imposed restrictions on the nuclear capability of Iran so as to ensure that Iran is not in a position to develop a nuclear weapon. That is why, according to this treaty, Iran will be limited to enriching uranium to 3.67%. And this is sufficient for civilian nuclear power, this percentage of uranium enrichment, but this is not sufficient for the development or building of nuclear weapons. United States withdrew from this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or nuclear deal or Iran nuclear deal in the year 2018. Now the plans of Iran to enrich uranium to up to 20% purity, IAEA says it is an additional blow. The first blow was the US withdrawal or the unilateral withdrawal in 2018. IAEA in the year 2005, along with its then Director General Mohammad Al-Baradei, bagged the Nobel Peace Prize. Now let's look at question number 6. India permits the export of red sanders if it is obtained from the cultivated land. Correct? Red sanders is listed in the Appendix 2 of CITES, which is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Correct. Both these statements are correct. C is the right answer. Question number 7. The phrase non-detriment finding, NDF, is linked to which of the following? It's related to CITES. How? Let's look at the context. 34 red sander smugglers were caught in Andhra Pradesh. The year was 2019. and the Directorate General of Foreign Trade. What it did, it revised the export policy, and this revision permitted export of red sanders if it is obtained from cultivated land. The Directorate General of Foreign Trade comes under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This red sanders is high in demand in Asia, particularly Japan and China, for its use in cosmetics and medicinal products. This red sanders, another interesting detail, is endemic. Endemic to several districts in Andhra Pradesh, can be important statement for your prelims, and also some parts of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Now, what is this Appendix 2? There is something called Appendix 1. The species that are present in Appendix 1, these species are threatened with extinction. And if they are threatened with extinction, that means the trade in these species is permitted, but only in exceptional circumstances. But those species which are in Appendix 2, these are not threatened with extinction. When they are not threatened with extinction, that means trade is allowed, but the export should not threaten the survival of these species. That means those species under Appendix 1, trade is allowed only in exceptional circumstances. But those species in Appendix 2, trade is allowed, but such an export should not be detrimental to the survival of that species. Then what is this non-detriment finding? The year was 2010. CITES, what it did, it was planning to suspend trade of red sanders obtained from India. Then what Government of India did? Government of India submitted this report called NDF. What is meant by this report? Basically a scientific authority. What it does? This scientific authority submits a report to CITES basically saying that in this species, if you allow trade, if you allow export, it will not be threatening the survival of that species. That means please allow export, and this export is not going to be detrimental to the survival of that species. That is how in 2010, when CITES was considering that let's suspend trade of red sanders obtained from India, the Government of India submitted this non-detriment finding report. Basically, this advice given by the government or given by the scientific authority to CITES saying that if you allow export, it is not going to be detrimental to the survival of that species. That report is known as non-detriment finding. Now at the end, let's look at the fact of the day. Qualified veto. How? Rejecting Trump's veto, US Senate backs defense bill. There's a bill, National Defense Authorization Bill. This bill was passed by US Congress. But then once this bill was passed, it was sent to the President of the United States of America. The President used his veto. According to US Constitution, if the President does not approve a bill, he may choose not to sign it, and he may return it unsigned, and he has to return this bill unsigned within a period of 10 days. The US Constitution also says that President is required to specify the objections, that too in writing. That means, dear President, if you do not want to sign this bill, what are your objections? Please let us know in writing. But then if US Congress decides to pass the bill again, but this time by a higher majority, by a 2/3 majority, then the bill becomes a law even without the signature of the President. This means the US Congress overrides the veto of the US President. This is what is known as qualified veto. And this was the first time that US lawmakers have overridden one of Donald Trump's vetoes. That's the end of the daily quiz today. If you like this initiative, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. Thank you. All the best.